Have you ever had a moment of perfect silence? Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that arrives after a lifetime of noise. The kind where the phone has stopped ringing, the alarm clock is irrelevant, and the calendar on the wall has more empty squares than filled ones. It's in this silence that a treacherous little question likes to whisper, "Is this all there is?" If that question has ever found you in your quiet moments, then you are in the right place. My friend, this journey we're about to take is not a lecture. It's a conversation across generations. Before we begin, I'd like for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can enjoy every other video I post, filled with stories and wisdom that can change how you see life. It's our little community here, a place to remember what truly matters. I want you to picture an old concert hall. The final, thunderous note of a symphony has just faded. The crowd is on its feet, roaring with applause. The musicians, exhausted and exhilarated, take their bows. It's over, a triumph. Now imagine that same musician the following morning. He wakes up. The applause is a memory. The orchestra is gone. His instrument sits in its case, silent. The score for the next symphony is blank. For so many of us, retirement can feel exactly like that. We have performed the grand symphony of our careers, raised our families, built our lives, a magnificent, decades-long performance. And then the curtain falls. We are left with a standing ovation from a life we no longer live. And we're faced with that empty chair, that silent instrument, and the question, what music is left to play? Today, we are not going to talk about filling time with busy work. We are going to talk about composing your second symphony. Not the one played for an audience, but the one played for your own soul. This is a story about my grandfather, a watchmaker named Arthur, and the most important lesson he ever taught me, a lesson he saved for the very end. Arthur was a man of immense patience and quiet precision. For 50 years, his world was no larger than the glow of his desk lamp, a universe of tiny gears, springs, and hands that ticked away the seconds of other people's lives. His shop smelled of oil and old wood, and the sound was a chorus of 100 synchronized ticks, a heartbeat for the town. He was an artist, though he'd never call himself one. He could take a pile of scattered, broken pieces and restore them to order, to life, to purpose. People didn't just bring him watches to be fixed. They brought him heirlooms, memories, legacies. A pocket watch carried by a father in the war, a wedding gift from a half-century ago. In his gnarled hands, he wasn't just repairing timepieces, he was mending time itself. And then, he retired. The shop was sold. The chorus of ticks fell silent. He packed up his tools, his magnifying glasses, his delicate tweezers, and brought them home, where they sat in a box in the garage. At first, it was a holiday. He slept in, he puttered in the garden. But after a few months, I started to notice a change. The light in his eyes, once so focused and bright, seemed to dim. He'd sit for hours in his armchair, just staring out the window at the bird feeder. The man who commanded the intricate dance of tiny mechanisms now seemed unmoored, adrift in the very time he had spent his life measuring. One afternoon, I found him in the garage, just standing over that box of tools. He hadn't opened it. He was simply looking at it, as if it were a coffin for his former self. "Granddad?" I said. "Everything okay?" He didn't look at me. He just kept staring at the box. And then he said something I'll never forget. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of the world. "I spent my life making sure everyone else's time mattered. I never stopped to wonder if my own did." That sentence hung in the air, heavy and profound. It wasn't said with self-pity, but with a kind of quiet, devastating clarity. The purpose he had found in serving others' time had vanished, and he was left alone with his own, stretching out before him, vast, silent, and terrifyingly empty. The following week, a neighbor, a young woman named Sarah, who had just moved in next door, came over looking flustered. She held a beautiful antique mantel clock in her hands. "Mr. Arthur, I heard you were the best. This was my grandmother's. It hasn't worked in years. I've taken it to 2 places and they said the parts are too obsolete. It can't be fixed. I was hoping maybe you could look at it?" My grandfather sighed. He looked tired. "I'm retired, my dear. My tools are packed away." But Sarah's face fell in a way that was more than just disappointment. It was a look of losing a tangible connection to someone she loved. She was about to turn away when my grandfather's eyes flickered. He looked from her sad face to the silent clock. He saw in that clock what he had seen 1,000 times before. Not a machine, but a vessel for a story. "Let me see it," he murmured.
He took the clock. His hands, which had seemed so still and idle for months, trembled slightly as he held it. He didn't go to the garage for his professional kit. Instead, he sat at the kitchen table with a simple screwdriver from the junk drawer. For the next 3 hours, I watched a transformation. It was slow at first. He fumbled, muttered about his old eyes, but then something clicked. Not in the clock, but in him. His posture straightened. His breathing became measured. The world outside that clock ceased to exist. He sent me to the garage for his specific toolbox. When I brought it to him, he opened it with the reverence of a priest opening a sacred text. He didn't see a collection of metal objects. He saw old friends. Each tool had a memory. He talked as he worked, something he rarely did in his shop. "This little spring here," he said, holding up a tiny coiled piece of metal. "It's not just a spring, it's the heartbeat. Without its tension, the whole dance falls apart. Much like in life, isn't it? We need a little tension, a little drive to keep us moving." He cleaned gears blackened with age. "See this? This is just tarnish. It's not broken. It just needs to be seen, to be cleaned, to be valued again." He wasn't just talking about the clock anymore. And then, the moment of truth. He placed the last gear, closed the back panel, and gave the pendulum a gentle push. Tick, tock. The sound was hesitant at first, then grew stronger, more confident. Tick, tock, tick, tock, and then the chime. It was a soft, melodic, beautiful sound that hadn't been heard in decades. It filled the kitchen, the sacred, forgotten music. Sarah burst into tears. Not sad tears, but tears of pure, unadulterated joy. "You did it! You brought her back to me," she whispered. But when I looked at my grandfather, I saw that he was crying too, silent tears tracing paths through the wrinkles on his face. He wasn't just fixing a clock. He was remembering who he was. In that moment, he wasn't a retired watchmaker. He was Arthur, the man who could restore heartbeat and song to silent things. My grandfather, the watchmaker, taught me that an empty routine is just a silent metronome waiting for you to set a new tempo. Your purpose now is not a destination to be frantically searched for. It is a quality of attention. It is the decision to look at the world and at yourself with the same patience and care my grandfather looked at that broken clock. To see the tarnish not as decay, but as a patina of a life lived. To hear the silence, not as an ending, but as the space between notes necessary for the music to breathe. So, if your routine feels empty, I want you to ask yourself not, "What should I do?" but rather, "What small, beautiful thing can I restore today? What silent music can I help to sing again?" It might be a forgotten skill, a mended relationship, a story shared with a grandchild, a garden brought back to life, a kind word to a stranger. you are not a finished symphony. You are a timeless melody, and your most beautiful movement is still waiting to be played. Thank you for sharing this time with me. If this story resonated with you, please share your own in the comments below. I read every single one. And until next time, remember, your wisdom is not a relic of the past. It is the very tool you need to build a beautiful future. Take care.